Claudia attempts to redeem herself in this season. She demonstrates that she, despite her rather cruel actions, is not a inveterately vile and perverse person. She tries to seek recompense. She starts down that route, but she does not continue down it, and she ultimately decides to set Aaravos free. He makes his plea to her, and she, not simply because of the persuasiveness of his admittedly eloquent plea and the admittedly tragic story he relates, but because of her desperation for some meaning, some connection, some sense of purpose that she does not have in her life, that she has lost as a desperate wanderer. She decides to listen to him. And her actions set the stage for season 7, the final season of the show. Perhaps a good comparison is the story of Zuko in season 2 of Avatar The Last Airbender, where he has these deep experiences that force him to reconsider what he previously thought, but at the same time, the convictions he already held do not dissipate. He still wants what he believes to be his honor. He still wants his place on the throne, eventually, as the heir. He still wants his father's approval. He still wants the acceptance of the Fire Nation. Even though he recognizes emotionally and increasingly intellectually that his steadfast beliefs and the ethos and the ideals of the Fire Nation are flawed. Thus, he changes somewhat throughout season 2, but he ultimately chooses what he always wanted when it is offered to him. It's extremely affecting. I don't think it is necessarily a negative to say of Claudia's story that it does not reach those emotional heights and psychological insights. It's a bit more diffuse. And I must say, in my opinion, it's not always 100% believable that she is changing. She wants to change, sure. Viren has had those kinds of foundational experiences. He realizes the futility of everything he did as passionately as he wanted to help humanity and to establish some sense of justice in what he perceived to be an unjust world. But he recognizes that he was wrong and he wants to change. He wants to face justice in a way. Claudia is much more vacillating on that front. As opposed to Zuko or even Viren, Claudia is interesting because she does not really have a lot of firm beliefs. She does not have experiences that can undermine and subvert this existing matrix of perceptions about the world because she does not really have a lot of firm perceptions about the world. She is vulnerable, she's isolated, she's disaffected, and that malaise is what drives her actions much more so than any misguided beliefs. The easy comparison to make is from her to Azula in Avatar The Last Airbender. I personally have made this comparison, and I admit it's useful. They are both the favored daughters of powerful, egotistical men who pass down their solipsism to their spoiled children. In this analogy, Zuko is Soren, the one who breaks away from Dad, rejects the values and the assumptions he once believed, and changes sides while the daughter stays behind, filled by an ardent conviction to follow the beliefs and ideals and values of her father. But all this isn't quite right. It doesn't quite match these characters as they eventually evolve. Azula has an unshakable conviction of her own superiority. She believes in the power and the authority of the Fire Nation. Zuko is an idealist. He fundamentally wants to believe that the Fire Nation is good, that what it is doing is justified. In this, there's a bit of a link between him and Sozin, who was genuinely a committed ideologue, for better and perhaps more for worse. He was a devoted fanatic of his ideas, and he took the opportunity to place them into practice out of a genuine desire for what he thought was the improvement of the world, to have it ruled by the Fire Nation, nation of industry and technology. Azula doesn't care. She believes the Fire Nation should rule because it is innately better than others. Might very much does make right for her. The powerful demonstrate their innate superiority to others through domination. And she never questions her own superiority to others and her own capacity for ruling the Fire Nation, because she is conniving, because she is scheming, because she is manipulative, because she can outthink others. Achievement and betterment for her justify ruling over others. In contrast, Claudia is a much more modern individual. She does not have a lot of very firm, unshakable beliefs, and it is exactly that vacuity that causes her such suffering. She was a lover to Callum initially. I think a lot of us forget that if we haven't watched the early seasons in a while. She was the dorky daughter of Viren, and she still is. Those are all sides of her. But there's not really any core to her, any solid foundation. She faces a world that treats her with apathy, that does not nourish her. It seems callous, utilitarian, and rather cold and impersonal. It does not really act in a way that promotes confidence, in a way that promotes assurance and certainty. Instead, it is fundamentally disordered. People she loves suffer grisly fates. Grandiose ideals do very little to stop the world from seeming constantly chaotic and uncertain and impermanent. There's no sense of continuity or coherence. holding society together, and that society does not really seem to care for her, especially when she commits to her father, a father who is outcast from society. She has a lot of positive qualities. She is a talented scholar. She knows her magic. She is studious and energetic and passionate. She deeply loves her family. All of these are good qualities for her, and despite possessing these, she finds herself fundamentally isolated from an unjust world to her, a world that has no continuity, has no clarity to it. There is a great line in Dostoevsky in Demons, my personal favorite novel of his, where he talks about Stavrogan, who is a seemingly heroic figure, tall, powerful, smart, but he's also capable of morally depraved actions, not because he's innately vile or that he can't do good things, but because there's no center to him, no core. He's a shadow, a silhouette where a person should be. Because he has not found himself as part of a greater whole. He has not been nourished by any larger sense of societal purpose, any sense of culture or community. And so he becomes disaffected, malaise stricken. He talks about how you can cross a river raging and wild on a log, but not on chips of wood, referring to his moral, emotional vacuity, his complete lack of a true center that derives from his complete isolation from any meaningful social fabric, any greater sense of purpose, any greater sense of community. He talks about how he can do great good and find pleasure in that, and that he can also do great evil and find pleasure in that too, but ultimately all his desires are too weak. They do not form a coherent sense of a whole. Claudia is not that bad of a person, but her moral condition is similar. And this is why she is so drawn to Aaravos. Aaravos, the great tempter that he is, offers easy answers to a confusing and opaque world. He says that yes, her anger is justified. The world is unjust and unfair. It has a certain concrete order to it, and that order is absurd and overly restrictive. It is incredibly moralistic and also incredibly hierarchical, and it does not care for those who step outside its bounds. That order punished Aaravos and took his daughter away from him. It, that great order, Aaravos implies, has punished Claudia too, has taken away everyone she cares about. Her mother, Lissa, her brother, Soren, her love, Callum, her father that she deeply loved more than anyone else, Viren. None of these are bad people. And yet she's lost all of them through very little fault of her own, simply because the world is innately unpredictable. It lacks any sense of coherence or continuity. She grows deeply vindictive against that world. She views it as not just apathetic, but actively malevolent, and she wants to change things. She wants to at least strike back and find some sense of recompense. Call it revenge if you want, but she wants to believe that the world can be made at least somewhat fair. And that's why she releases Aaravos, because she believes in the promises he offers, as incomplete as those promises are, as perhaps fallacious and misconceived as they are. She believes that the world needs to be set right, that the world is unjust and uncaring. She is disconnected from any greater sense of meaning or any sense of unity or connection. And she's desperate, so she acts desperately. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, if you want to see more videos before anyone else, just like this one. Keep watching The Dragon Prince. Season 6 was quite good. I can't wait to see what they do with the final season of the show. Keep watching it. Adios, comrades.